year, the board elects its chair and vice chair. I would now like to proceed with the election of the chair. Once the chair is elected, he or she will take over as chair of the meeting. I would like to call for nominations for the position of chair for the Police Service Board for 2026. Tony Giovanazzo.
Yeah, I would like to nominate Ian McLean for chair of the board for 2026.
Thank you. I have a nomination of Ian McLean moved by Tony. May I have a seconder? Seconded by Doug Craig. Thank you. We have a motion on the table to nominate Ian McLean for the position of chair of the Waterloo Regional Police Service Board for 2026. All in favor? Any objections? That's carried. Can I now have a motion to close the nominations for the position of chair? Moved by Jim Schmidt, seconded by Sandy Shantz. All in favor? Any objections? That's carried. Without any further nominations, Ian McLean, are you willing to accept the nomination for chair?
Be honored. Thank you.
With his acceptance, Ian McLean is declared elected as chair of the Waterloo Regional Police Service Board and will now conduct the election of the vice chair.
Well, thank you, Megan. Appreciate that. I'd like to call for nominations for the position of vice chair of the Waterloo Region Police Service Board for 2026. Karen Quigley-Hobbs.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Karen Redmond as vice chair for 2026.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Moved by Tony Giovanazzo. So we have a motion on the table to nominate Karen Redmond for the position of vice chair of the Waterloo Region Police Service Board for 2026. All in favor? Any objections? That's carried. Can I now have a motion to close the nominations for the position of vice chair? Moved by Sandy, seconded by Jim Schmidt. All those in favor? Any objections? So that's carried. Without any further nominations, Karen Redmond, are you willing to accept nomination to continue as vice chair?
I am. Thank you.
Good. With her acceptance, Karen Redmond is declared elected as vice chair of the Waterloo Region Police Service Board for 2026. So thank you, colleagues. I think that gets us up and running for this first open meeting of the year. We are meeting virtually today. We made the decision last night due to impending weather to meet virtually today. There wasn't much this morning, but the weather is coming in, so that's why we're meeting virtually today. Just as we start our agenda, we do acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest from the board? Seeing none, we'll move on to the rest of the agenda. Closed session recommendations, there are none. Consent agenda items 8.1 to 8.7 are in the agenda and in your package. Is there any items on the consent agenda that any member of the board would like to move to the regular part of the agenda or ask questions now? If not, I'd look for a motion to move or to approve those as a group. Moved by Sandy and seconded by Karen Redmond. All those in favor? That's passed unanimously. Business arising from the minutes, there is none. Correspondence, there is none. Just moving on to 10.1, just wanted to note the order in council from the province reappointing Tony Giovanazzo to the Police Services Board, I think for another 2 years. And so just wanted to mention that to the board, but also publicly, and congratulate Tony on his reappointment. And we look forward to you continuing with the great work you're doing on the board. Item 10.2, the Inspector of Policing, Inspector General of Policing Memorandum Number 8, Findings Report and IG Decisions. Under the new act, the Inspector General of Policing will be releasing the decisions on their investigations relating to public complaints. I thought maybe, Chief, you could tell us a bit more. This is, again, the act is fairly new. Just thought maybe you could tell us a bit more about this administrative report that comes out. I guess annually it will come out. So maybe you can just fill us in a bit.
Good morning, Chair McLean and members of the board. Thank you very much. Yeah, just very wanted to highlight a recognition that we received with the new Community Safety and Policing Act has brought about the Inspectorate of Policing, and the Inspector General has been looking into a number of practices related to decisions related on compliance, non-compliance, and commending strong performance. So of the decisions that have been publicly released thus far, WRPS was recognized as having commendable performance, and on the service or on the Inspectorate website, it reads that the Inspector General found that the Waterloo Regional Police Service was in compliance with policing requirements under the CSPA and commended the service for effective enforcement of cannabis laws. The decision noted that the service exceeds standards by using best practices such as engaging external partners, obtaining judicial authorizations, and maintaining communications with the complainant. And so this stems from a complaint about the complexities of enforcing cannabis laws, where we have a market of cannabis distribution throughout the province of Ontario, and in our engagements on a specific number of circumstances. So I received a personal touch point by Ryan Teschner, the Inspector General, commending the organization for our handling of this. And I just want to recognize good organizational work and leadership. And of other findings, this was amongst the positive ones that have been released. So the board should be assured that our members are working hard, and we also want to commend great work and best practices.
Thank you, Chief. Any comments or questions from the board? Thank you. Thanks for that update, Chief. Okay, moving on to Police Service Board reports. There are none. Now we're to item 12.0, Chief of Police reports. First one is 12.1, 2026-006, Homicide in Canada 2024. And Chief, I'll throw it to you, but I think we were joined by Kelsey Gilmore as well. So maybe, are you starting off or one of the deputies?
Yeah, I'm happy to just provide a brief introduction. So the board will recall this is an annual report released by Statistics Canada, provides us a national snapshot. And Kelsey is here today, one of our amazing members in strategic services, and she will just be providing that snapshot, but also some local context as well. So over to you, Kelsey. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to get set up here. Okay, does that look okay from your end?
All good.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, Chief, and good morning, Chair McLean and members of the board. So this presentation will cover highlights from the Statistics Canada Homicide Trends in Canada 2024 article. So on December 2nd, 2025, Statistics Canada released the annual Homicide Trends in Canada 2024 report. And homicides are defined as first-degree murder, second-degree murder, manslaughter, or infanticide, and they only include founded incidents. So this will include short and long-term trends in homicide at the national, provincial, territorial, and census metropolitan area, or CMA level. And this report also explores characteristics of homicides committed in 2024, with information on methods used to commit homicides, including the use of firearms, whether the homicide was determined to be gang-related, youth accused of homicide, as well as whether the homicide victim or accused were identified as Indigenous or racialized. So the following analysis focuses on the major trends identified at the national level, as well as some of the trends in police-reported homicides specific to the Kitchener-Cambridge-Waterloo CMA. Okay, so the first chart I will show you demonstrates the homicide rate by province for 2024. The national homicide rate is added as a red line for reference, and you can see Ontario is highlighted in blue. In 2024, there were 788 reported homicides in Canada, and this accounted for less than 0.1% of all police-reported violent criminal code offenses in Canada. This equates to 1.91 homicides per 100,000 population, and a 4% decrease since 2023. So this is the second consecutive year that the national homicide rate has been below 2 homicides per 100,000 population. Within Ontario, the 2024 homicide rate remained relatively unchanged at 1.75 per 100,000 population. The second chart I'll show you shows the homicide rate for each CMA with over 500,000 people in 2024. And again, that national homicide rate is added as a red line for reference, and you can see Kitchener-Cambridge-Waterloo highlighted in blue. The Kitchener-Cambridge-Waterloo CMA reported 5 homicides in 2024, or 0.71 victims per 100,000 people. And these numbers remained relatively unchanged from 2023, which had 5 victims and a rate of 0.74 victims per 100,000 population. The Kitchener-Cambridge-Waterloo CMA's rate is below the national rate of 1.91 and ranks 36th among all CMAs and 15th among provincial CMAs. So drawing from some stats within our organization, this chart looks at the homicide rate for the Kitchener-Cambridge-Waterloo CMA and for Canada from 2015 to 2024. And so you'll notice Kitchener-Cambridge-Waterloo in red and Canada in blue. So the rate of homicides on the Kitchener-Cambridge-Waterloo CMA has remained relatively below remained consistently below the national rate. However, we did see a slight increase in the rate in 2020, where it peaked at 1.32. So I'll provide the latest numbers for Waterloo Region, as well as the previous 5 years for comparison. As seen in the chart, the number of homicides and attempt homicides decreased from 2024 to 2025, with homicides decreasing from 5 to 4, and the number of attempt homicides decreasing from 4 to 1. Okay, so just a few of the trends from 2024. At a national level, firearms accounted for more than 36% of homicides in 2024, and handguns were the most frequently used firearm at 56%. Gang-related homicides accounted for less than 1/5 of all homicides in 2024, and for the first time since 2016, the national gang-related homicide rate dropped below 0.4 per 100,000 population. Youth accused homicides increased from 65 in 2023 to 72 in 2024. And in 2024, police reported 13 incidents involving multiple youth accused of homicide, 5 of which had 3 or more accused youth. 42% of individuals accused of homicide had a record of either having committed or having been accused of previous crimes against a person. And 32% of individuals charged with homicide were under some form of justice system supervision. And this can include bail, remand, sentence to custody, or on probation at the time of committing the offense. Moving on to the victims, 26% of victims were Indigenous and 29% belonged to a racialized group, such as a visible minority. Women continue to be overrepresented in intimate partner homicides at 81%. And we saw an increase from 53 victims in 2023 to 81 victims in 2024. Finally, 5% of victims were reported missing persons at the time of their death. And despite increases in the number of Indigenous women who were homicide victims, the percentage of those previously reported as missing was 3.25 times lower in 2024 than the average calculated since data was first collected in 2015. And so that concludes this presentation. I thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Kelsey. Appreciate the report. Any further comments, Chief? Over to you.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Kelsey. And just want to give some context for the board. I think it's important that we will continue to bring this national and local landscape back to you. There's always a lag on that calendar year evaluation, but the data is sound from Stats Canada. For 2024, highlighting that 4 of our 5 homicides involved firearms, and that has folded into a couple strategies for us is to ensure that firearms-related offenses remains our top focus in our crime suppression efforts. So giving a window into the homicides reported in 2025, those declined to 1 firearms-related homicide in the past calendar year compared to 2024. We're not resting on our laurels, though. Kelsey highlighted a number of areas of which we're very actively engaged. Our total crime suppression efforts speak to not only firearms, but gun and gang violence, drug trafficking, human trafficking, all these types of offenses that lead to bad outcomes. But the board will also be familiar with our commitment to the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan priority of intimate partner violence, gender-based violence, missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls, and also the priority of mental health and addictions. These things are all interconnected. So we're dealing with it in real time always, but also looking at what strategic and what structural changes can we make with our partners to improve community health and our outcomes. And lastly, Kelsey also highlighted youth violence and youth-related homicides rising as well. And so our youth engagement strategy is really looking at positive engagements and any attempt to reduce bad outcomes and circumstances for young people within Waterloo region and beyond, to drive down violence and to try to avert these worst of circumstances. So a lot of efforts by our members and our community partners. There is a randomness to homicide investigations in that what may be the result of a homicide could just as well be an aggravated assault or an assault. And sometimes we're taking every offense to heart and putting our best efforts in the thoroughness of all our investigations, from our major crime teams to our frontline response and beyond. So just wanted to provide that context, and happy for us to engage further on any point of interest.
Questions from the board? Tony Giovinazzo.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Maybe just a couple questions if I could be afforded. First one is on the trending in the youth homicides or youth-based accused homicides. How does that, is there some sense of what that trend looks like over a longer period of time? I see the increase of 10+% from one year to another, but do we have some idea of what that looks like on a longer period of time? And is it more dramatic? Is there is it really steep, a steep incline there?
Kelsey, I don't know if you're able to answer this with any better authority that I might. I mean, it's something that the national trends matter a lot. We always want to localize as much as possible for an Ontario context and then a local Waterloo region context. I've known over the years to look at some of the provinces such as Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and some others that have sometimes driven up the national rates of homicides related to other community factors in those jurisdictions. So, Kelsey, I don't know if you have any further context or if this is something we bring back to a further response. Yeah.
My memory recalls something about youth specifically that might relate to what you're speaking to, Tony, that came out in the report a couple of years ago. So I think what I might suggest is going back and looking back at that, and then if I can return with a better answer for you.
Yeah, my other question was, what stuck out, first of all, the Indigenous people involved in homicides, and I presume that could be geographically impacted. But, the 1/3 of youth accused homicides, 1/3 of that are individuals that are currently within the justice system. So I look to that, or if there's any other learnings from this report that may assist us in future advocacy that we need to have to other parties and associations or within the province, Chief, that we can assist on? Because I think, I mean, that's a pretty dramatic number that over 30% are currently in the justice system that have created this. So just a thought, if there's any other learnings that you see through your team that may help us direct towards future advocacy as a board. So.
Yeah. I see Mandy Williams has joined us, so thank you for the comments, and I'll start and she can add on. We take this all to heart. We want evidence to drive our actions and to drive, predictability to as much extent that we can for where we focus our efforts. So I've mentioned the youth engagement strategy. We have a robust reconciliation action plan for things like Indigenous members of our community to ensure that we're not missing any opportunities to improve, health and wellness for all. So those are things we know that, especially for youth-related crime, it's typically young men being brought into the fold with organized crime groups, drug trafficking, the robberies, the firearms-related offenses that we have seen throughout our region as well, reinforcing our need to continue to engage and to focus our efforts from crime suppression, but also to positive community engagement. So, Mandy, you joined for a reason, so I'll turn to you for maybe a little more context.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. So I'd just like to note that the trends that we're talking about here are really provincial and national level trends. And when we look into our own data, we don't often replicate those ones. So I can't tell you off the top of my head what these like youth related trends look like for our data over the past 10 years, but I can tell you that I can take this away and we can look into our own data to see what we're replicating and try to find points of advocacy that we can share back with the board.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's exactly what I was looking for, something more specific to our region and that.
Okay, don't see any other hands. I did have one from that first screen on rate per 100,000, excuse me, of homicides, and Ontario being under the national average. So I don't know if this is Chief or Mandy, but it's pretty stark that the two biggest provinces, so Ontario's under the national average, but Quebec is, quite a bit below even Ontario. Any sense, Chief, of what are they demographic? Is it anything, or maybe that falls into some more analysis. I just find it interesting that Quebec is like orders of magnitude lower on the homicide rate than Ontario even. And are we learning, is there particular uniqueness in Quebec that we can't take and incorporate either in Ontario or frankly for the rest of the country?
Yeah, it's a good question to which I don't have a silver bullet answer. So we are always working federally, provincially, and locally with our partnerships to learn more. The interconnectedness of gun and gang violence, which is drives a lot of our focus in these areas, continues to be predominant. There are sociodemographic differences throughout the nation that province to province drive some of the prairie provinces, some of the concerns there. So I would just say at the highest level within Ontario and Quebec and beyond, but certainly Ontario, Quebec, the linkages of intelligence sharing and project work and all the efforts going into driving down violent crime and all organized crime continues to strengthen and improve. And so Deputy Davis and her teams continue to look at things nationally, provincially, and locally and strengthening some of those efforts. So we're learning every day on the impacts in our community and also assisting other jurisdictions with their efforts to drive violence down in many forms. So.
Okay, thanks, Chief. I see Sandy. Go ahead.
Thank you. And just sort of continuing on with that discussion, we were at Roma this past week, and Chair Redmond and I did a delegation along with Inspector Matthias on to children's services. And one of the things that was brought up is that we are considered best practice in some proactive types of working on a headache today and my words aren't all coming, but some proactive interventions that we have, particularly working with males. And I don't know if Karen, if you want to add anything, or Inspector Matthias, if you're on, if you want to add anything to that.
Thanks, Mayor Shant. So I might ask Deputy Davis, just with her connections to the Family Violence Project and the continued work that we're doing there, just to highlight some of the great leading work. And we are being recognized for having the 20 years of partnership through the Family Violence Project has always been something to be proud of. But maybe Deputy Davis, you could just provide some context in terms of that partnership and how we're looking to leverage successes, but also future opportunities. Yeah.
Thanks, Chief. No, that was a great feedback that we got from the delegation. And two of the main programs that Aaron spoke to were really around early intervention program, which is something that we introduced a couple of years back. And it's really around engaging with persons prior to criminal charges being laid. So really looking at how are we actually trying to identify and address maybe the systemic or underlying issues that are leading to intimate partner violence calls before charges are laid. So that's one of the programs. We work on that in partnership with Women's Crisis Services, with Victim Services, with other partners as part of the Family Violence Project. And the other one is really around the Engaging Men program. So it's not just about dealing with victims and families and youth, but also how are we engaging with men to support them as well. So that's the other big program that we're really looking to enhance and increase funding on to support. We have seen a very steady state of calls for around intimate partner violence in our region, even with all of the enhanced supports that we have through Family Violence Project. And we're continually looking at funding opportunities, way to bring in new partners, to ensure that we're reflective of the entire community that we're serving. And that is, some of what's driving our strategic plan moving forward around the Family Violence Project as well.
And thanks for that. If I
Go
could
ahead,
just
Paul.
jump into and say in the rural areas, also Woolwich Community Services has long had a family violence prevention program. And so if there's anyone in the rural areas, particularly Wellesley, Wilmot, and Woolwich, they can contact Woolwich Community Services if they need support there.
Okay, thank you, Karen. And maybe just to context, Sandy had referenced Roma, which is, I think, Rural Ontario Municipalities Association. For those that may not know the acronym, but maybe Karen, maybe situate Waterloo Region is being part of that, for obvious reasons, and then you got a question as well.
Actually, I was just going to tag on to what Sandy had said. We were all at Roma, the four township mayors and myself, and this is obviously something that's of great importance. I just really want to underscore that we're actually mentioned in this huge report that the provincial government did as a best practice. And it was Associate Minister Williams that asked for an invitation to come and see what we're doing. And the chief earlier used the comment, we're not resting on our laurels. And we can sometimes rest on lawyers too, I guess. But the early intervention program focusing that's already been mentioned, Engaging Men program, shows that we continue to be innovative and we continue to work with the community. I think there's about 9 agencies with whom we work. And so I think we should invite the minister and have her explore all of the assets and the partnerships that we had throughout the region. But it was a great meeting. Inspector Matthias did a great job. We have Connie McDonald from the region, and this has been a focus for us for a very long time for the community safety and well-being. And that really is an all-of-region response and grassroots all the way to the heads of agencies. So it's a very good news story, and we got a great reception. And now we're looking for money from the province.
Well, that's a good thing. Okay, well, thank you for the report to Kelsey and Chief and Deputy. I think we look forward to Mandy had suggested maybe gathering some of the other data and putting some local piece to this as well. So we'll look forward to that as you have time to maybe put those pieces together for us to bring in some of the local aspects. So thank you for that. Move on, I think. 12.2, 2026-008, Court Security and Prisoner Transportation Program. I don't know. I think David's joining us, but Chief, maybe just briefly, I think the board is going to do a tour of the new courthouse in I think next week, if I'm not mistaken, to get so we have a more tangible, hands-on view of the responsibilities that WRPS has around the courthouse. I don't know if you want to just mention that, and then David can take the report away.
Sure, thank you. And yeah, this is something that was brought to the board through the 2026 budget process about our shared responsibilities for adequate and effective policing and court security, and some of the challenges that we have seen locally, but also afar across the province for the finances related to those provisions. So we look forward to hosting the board for an education on-site field trip on Monday in the provincial courthouse, just to get a behind-the-scenes view of the public and the operational areas of the court, to see the immense responsibility that falls to this region and our provide adequate and great court services, not only for this region, but also as a hub of criminal justice activities that draw in other jurisdictions for many different things. So I'll turn over to David. He's just going to give us an overview of the fundamentals of this report and the advocacy and the request. Yeah.
David.
Thank you very much, Chief, and good morning, members of the board. Before you is a board report with an attached letter that, if in agreement, the board could send to Deputy Minister DiTomaso at the Ministry of Solicitor General, outlining a couple of things. One of them being the Court Security and Prisoner Transportation Program, in which in 2025 WRPS had a reduction in the amount that we receive. While at the same time, there was an all chiefs memo increase of personnel and security at those services who have courts within their jurisdictions. So, as you will recall, the Police Service Board included in your budget an expansion of court security at the Kitchener Courthouse, which equaled close to $2 million for expanded personnel. So this letter, this correspondence that would be authored from Chair McLean outlines those two items where we had this reduction in our annual allotment through the Court Security Prisoner Transportation Grant, while also being asked by the province to basically expand our court protection. And just asking the province to look at our allocation for next year, while also working with us on how that allocation is divvied up using a more metric-focused approach. And that's basically it. The letter would be sent on behalf of the board if members are in agreement. Thank you.
And so just to for those watching, is the WRPS has responsibility for court security. The budget allocation from the province does not sufficiently fund what the provincial responsibility is, and I think that's why we're getting to this. Is that some of this naturally falls onto the local or the regional contribution to our budget, but we don't have a choice of providing the level of services and protection and oversight at the courthouse. We have to provide it whether the provincial funding's there or not. I think that's really what within the discussion as we had during budget this is one of those effectively is a partially unfunded mandate that lands on ratepayers here in Waterloo Region. Have I got that about right? I think that's a reasonable synopsis, Chief or David.
Yeah, I think that's a great overview. Yeah, very succinct. Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, go ahead. I didn't see that. Go ahead, Karen.
I just want to support your comments and also amplify the fact that demand for service is going up when funding is going down. So it's a very untenable trend, and the demand for service we feel is very legitimate. We just need more money to make sure that we give the adequate service that's required.
Okay, so the report is before us. There's a motion that the Police Service Board send the attached correspondence, so I can work if this is approved with David and Chief and get this into the ministry on the board's behalf. So if I don't see any other hands or any other questions, can I get a mover and a seconder for moving forward with this? Moved by Doug Craig, seconded by Jim Schmidt. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's passed unanimously. Thank you for the work, David, and you and I and Chief can make sure we get that off in a timely fashion, because as we know, budget season, well, I don't think it ever ends, but we'll be back into it, and we want to make sure this is into the province as we start thinking about our budget for next year. Okay, we're on to 12.3, 2026-007, Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan highlights from 2025. And I think I don't see him, Inspector Matthias is joined. No. Anyways, I'm going to give it to the Chief.
Yeah, thanks very much. So Dr. Manny Williams will be providing this report, and just want to highlight this is a highlight report from 2025 and a look into 2026. So she was unavailable today, but we look forward to welcoming the Executive Director of the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, Samina Sami, at an upcoming board meeting to highlight her role and our partnership between the service, the board, the region of Waterloo, and our shared commitment to seeing the plan come to action. So I'll turn over to Mandy for an overview of the report. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chief and Chair McLean, members of the board. I'm pleased to join you here today to provide updates on the 2025 highlights of the region of Waterloo Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. I believe you're seeing the title slide of the presentation now. Is that correct?
Yep.
Perfect, thank you. So this presentation is a summary based on the information that was provided at the December 2025 All-Council meeting. And did the slide progress?
No.
No. Oh, let's see. It did now, though.
Now it did. There you go.
Thank you. The Region of Waterloo Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan demonstrated progress over the course of 2025. The priorities of the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan include combating hate, addressing intimate partner violence and gender-based violence, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, addressing mental health and addictions needs together, and creating safe and inclusive spaces. Key governance highlights included the introduction of a new Community Safety Wellbeing Plan Executive Director, who will oversee the strategic operations of the plan, government relations support and advocacy for the plan's priorities, and ongoing core support for a number of the funding opportunities. In 2025, the Data and Evaluations Working Group have identified indicators to help better inform the monitoring, evaluation, and reporting for each priority area. And in terms of the individual priority areas, I'll start with the intimate partner violence, gender-based violence, and missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls table. So we've already talked a little bit about this table in this meeting, and we're going to continue to elevate the best practice that's been identified as happening in the region through the launch of the Family Violence Project Ambitious 4-Year Strategic Plan. And as a key part of the Family Violence Project, as we already talked about, is the Early Intervention Program. And this has provided consistent results in reducing IPV-related calls for service to police for individuals who have engaged in this program. For example, in the first quarter, program had no further IPV-related calls post 6 months after program participation. The program was featured in the Standing Committee on Justice Policy, a study of intimate partner violence as a study of intimate partner violence as a scalable model for best practice to other municipalities. This action table also surveyed gender-based violence service providers to better understand the landscape of services in the region, And key statistics from the survey's respondents included that 48% of the programs were funded by grants and 19% of the programs were unfunded. And the top 3 program types are education, counseling, and connection, with fits with the community safety well-being plan of getting into preventative versus into incident responses. Another key initiative launched in 2025 was the Not in My City Anti-Human Trafficking campaign. This community-wide initiative promotes training and awareness, which supports victims and is focused on disrupting the pervasive form of gender-based violence. WRPS has committed to train all members and continues to gather multi-sector support to amplify this vital conversation. In 2025, the Combating Hate Action Table worked together to launch a community-wide anti-hate awareness campaign, We All Belong Here, aimed at addressing hate, harm, and building a community where everyone feels safe, welcome, respected, and has a sense of belonging. The campaign features posters, social media posts, lawn signs, newspaper and radio ads, a wrapped Grand River transit bus, and more. The campaign materials were also translated into multiple languages. The We Belong Here website, as you can see on the slide, was launched alongside an information campaign designed to support and provide resources to individuals who are seeking support, looking to change, and wanting to be an ally. Since launching last fall, 15 community activation events have been hosted, and the website receives consistent traffic. So moving to the Mental Health and Addiction System Transformation Team, this is led by the Waterloo Region Ontario Health Teams and focuses on aligning cross-sectional work in the region to prevent duplication, to optimize resources, and improve impact through integrated coordinated care. The 6 mobilization teams are currently supporting regional initiatives, including Heart Hub implementation, addressing homelessness, housing, and have data and evaluation initiatives launched. In 2025, a Safe and Inclusive Spaces Action Table was developed with representation from local municipalities, Indigenous organizations, and community organizations. The table aims to collaboratively develop and implement actions that foster safe and inclusive spaces for Indigenous peoples and equity-deserving communities across the region. The Community Safety and Policing Act requires that the community safety well-being plans are refreshed on a 4-year cycle. In 2026, the region of Waterloo is required to submit an update. Core support team is currently conducting action table engagement opportunities to inform and evolve the work moving forward. Key planning principles and outcomes will ensure that the plan is designed to be responsive, aligned with existing initiatives, and promotes sustainable, achievable, evidence-based programs. The goal will be to ensure that Waterloo region continues to be a community where everyone feels safe, is cared for, and has opportunities to thrive. Thank you.
Okay, there we get the screen back. Thank you for that helpful information and a lot of important work being done with this. And I know it's a priority not only for the board but for you, Chief, and for the service as a whole. Open it up to the board. Any questions or comments? Don't see any. Any final thoughts or comments, Chief?
Just to affirm our commitment and our confidence that we're very hopeful 2026 is going to be a significant year for our community and our shared contributions to these action tables. So, we maintain the confidence that the partnerships are strengthening and our actions will start to play through with some impact, and we're already starting to see that. And I'll just highlight one of the many initiatives that Mandy highlighted, that the partnership related to Not in My City, the anti-human trafficking campaign, is really starting to gather steam. And I believe that the Waterloo region will emerge as a national leader in promoting this campaign to the benefit of many. So more to come, but very proud of the undertakings that are underway. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 13.0. And that is the monthly Chief of Police report starring Chief Crowell.
Thanks very much, members of the board. Very proud to provide the monthly Chief of Police report. And want to start off by highlighting three different investigations related to drug trafficking, and just to highlight to the board and our community the complexity and the multifaceted way that such investigations take place, from a frontline to a specialized investigative capacity. So one example is within December, the North Division Street Crime Team initiated an investigation into stolen vehicle components. And as a result of that arrest, search warrants were completed, leading us into Hamilton. And through the course of investigative undertakings, we uncovered a major drug trafficking investigation related to the seizure of drugs, but also Canadian currency and electronic devices and so on. So this is just one of many investigations that start as one into stolen vehicle components, but leads to investigation. Similarly, dating back to the summer, one of our investigative units, the Gangs and Hate Crime Team, into the investigation with a large seizure of various drugs, including methamphetamine, fentanyl, cocaine, and other opioids, and so on. And 3 individuals were arrested in this investigation. And lastly, another investigation related to our drugs and firearms unit, completing numerous search warrants as part of the ongoing investigation for drug trafficking in Kitchener, leading to the arrest of 2 individuals as well. And just wanting to highlight to the board that drug trafficking and organized crime remains as a centerpiece for violence in our community, and our commitments are ongoing in all those efforts. We had a very positive collaborative effort related to a holiday retail crime safety blitz. And this was a shared undertaking across the organization where we partnered with retailers and also the Retail Council of Canada and their National Retail Crime Task Force. So this is a scourge of concern, not only within Ontario, but across Canada, leading to multiple billions of dollars of loss in communities across the nation. So the result of our efforts related to 54 individual theft investigations, 56 individuals arrested, and over 60 charges laid, and 8 people arrested for outstanding warrants. So our efforts related to organized retail crime will continue, and it's a major partnership effort heading into 2026 within this jurisdiction and beyond. Just looking at road safety, you can see displayed the number of road safety charges as the bad weather occurs during the winter months. There's a fluctuation in some of our enforcement activities, as a lot of our members are tied up with significant collision investigations and so on, but our proactive efforts continue. Just to give a sense of a look back to 2025, very unfortunately, we had an uptick in fatal motor vehicle collision incidents, resulting in 20 deaths across the region, 70% of which occurred on our rural roadways. You can see displayed that our efforts for proactive enforcement and involvement in the communities across the region resulted in over 22,000 road safety charges laid. The board has recognized the continued concerns that we all have related to road safety efforts, and we're very much looking forward to the launching later in 2026 of a dedicated road safety team to help to stem the tide on a significant number of serious injuries and deaths occurring in Waterloo region. Also, just wanting to highlight a very successful annual Festive Ride campaign. Impaired driving remains one of the most preventable and a leading cause of death and injury across Canada every year. And we, through the course of many nights across the region, inspected and engaged with over 10,000 vehicles and residents, and a number of charges related and suspensions related as well. And throughout many of our interactions, they were positive, and very proud of our community, the majority of which are making safe choices related to impaired driving and safe driving. Just switching gears, we are looking forward to challenging our community once again for the annual Polar Plunge related to the Ontario Special Olympics. And we look forward to taking that cold plunge on March 7th at police headquarters. So the call is out, and the goal is high this year as we support Special Olympics for a fun, engaging community event. Also want to highlight a really great second undertaking at Chicopee 2 Park, where we partnered with Reception House of Waterloo Region, welcoming over 45 new Canadians, mostly children, who are new to the snow and to the winter weather. And we engaged in a couple hours of tubing and positive engagements. And also very proud of our members who raised and collected winter clothing for these new Canadians. And this is developing to be a very positive and impressive partnership with the reception house. And lastly, wanting to highlight the welcoming of 18 new police officers who graduated from the police college. And on towards the end of the month, we look forward to their WRPS badging ceremony and welcoming them formally to our community. So we have been busy throughout the month of December and into January, and want to wish everybody a happy, healthy, and safe 2026. And we look forward to our continued commitment and partnership within the organization and beyond. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Chief. Great update. Any comments or questions from the board? Karen Quigley-Hobbs. You're on mute, Karen. I know we're not used to this online thing.
My gosh,
There
thought
we
I
go.
switched that off. Sorry. Thanks for the report, Chief. In terms of individual arrests regarding drugs and firearms, is it safe to assume that the drug traffickers are not individual contractors, but somehow associated with broader networks? And then secondary to that, is there progress being made at the provincial and federal level of task force that we see referenced in terms of working at that level of crime?
Thank you very much. I'll start, and then I'll ask Deputy Davis to fill in some context as well. So with drug trafficking, it's always a combination of individuals or a group of individuals tied to a local market. They have to have supply and demand occurring locally, but that supply and demand has linkages provincially, nationally, and internationally, because depending on the substance, its source is often across jurisdictions. So at the highest level, we are making great connections. I mentioned drug trafficking because it's related to weapons, it's related to human trafficking, it's related to organized crime of all kind, and even the organized retail crime that we highlighted as well. It could be the load thefts and the trucking concerns that we see. All of these activities have interconnections, and so multiple projects across multiple entities are ongoing. So Deputy Davis leads and supports a number of teams that are always conducting this work, from small projects to large projects, and maybe you can provide just some additional commentary.
I think the biggest piece to add to that too is when we're dealing at the individual level or the ground level, like what we're doing to try and support existing legislation. And we've seen some recent legislation come out around like that street level drug use, et cetera, and the authorities we have. And I think what we continually try to demonstrate is it is still illegal, still a criminal offense. We will arrest in those cases, even for things such as simple possession. We will search, we will seize. We don't lay charges in all cases. It is a discretion of the officer to lay charges, and usually charges are laid when there's a more substantive charge attached to it as well. And that is, I would say, probably a very similar practice that most police agencies are following right now. We do have existing authorities around simple possession charges. And I think that the chief hit on when we're looking at bigger projects and we're looking at specialized investigative units dealing with that at a higher level already.
Okay, Karen, there's your questions. Any other comments, questions?
Just
Maybe-
one comment. The complexity of police work never seems to go away, does it?
Yeah. Just following up on your report, Chief, I don't see any other hands. And you referenced the recruit class that I think is the badging ceremony, if I'm not mistaken, is a week Friday, and the 30th of January, I think, is when we're formally welcoming them onto the service. Maybe just and I know we do this on a regular basis, it wasn't on the agenda, but since you've raised it, just a quick overview on our recruiting activities, because as we know, either replenishing retirements or those that are naturally the attrition, as well as making sure we're keeping up with the growth that we require. Just how are our recruiting class? Because we've got, I think we're almost perpetually now with a class in the college, year round. So what does our next class look like after we get these? I think you said 18 that we'll welcome in the 30th. What do the next couple of classes look like, or give us a bit of an update?
Sure, and I'll start, and then I'm going to tap Deputy Fenton as well, just for some precision. But yeah, because we have a couple minutes here, I will just highlight through the board support, we have made great strides. Through our human resources practices, our recruiting, our marketing, to draw immense talent to the organization. So we have been sending a healthy class to the Ontario Police College now 4 times a year. So to grow by 18 officers in 2025, we hired 67 new police constables to account for attrition and so on. So we've essentially full authorized staffing heading into 2026, meaning that in the last calendar year, we found and hired every person that was authorized, both sworn for police constables and for civilian members. So the talent gap that we saw and experienced a couple of years ago, we have bridged through great practices, and we continue to be a leading agency of choice for many, and we are very selective to ensure that we have people who are resilient and capable of doing the hard work that is required. So just over to Deputy Fenton, I think just to provide just a highlight of our forecasting, if you could, for those 4 OPC classes moving forward.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning, Chair McLean and members of the board. So yeah, happy to echo the Chief's comments. We've conquered recruiting challenges of past and caught up, and we are hovering at complement most of the time. And the plan would be to send 4 intakes of recruits to college this year, and we're averaging or targeting 18 to 20 officers per intake to meet the expected attrition, as well as the board authorized expansions that the Chief spoke of. So,
yeah, I would just comment, Chief. It's great work by your team, and I think maybe as you point out, we're an employer of choice for those that choose policing, because we know that there are still other services who are not having or are not as far along of what their needs are in their communities, and I think of other services in Toronto area and others. So congratulations to the team, and I guess it's one of those things that it's like the never-ending race. We'll always be needing to make sure we're recruiting on a constant basis to make sure we account for our population growth, our retirements, etc. So continued success to the team and to the senior management group of getting those recruits on board. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Any hands up? Seeing nothing. Speak now or forever hold your peace. No, that's it. Okay, we'll move on. There 14.0 new business. I don't see any. No hands are waving. Future agenda items. Don't see any. Information item. Just as a note to the media. Once we conclude in a few moments, members of the media are welcome to log into the Zoom for time with the chief or myself for questions from the media. And if there's nothing else, I'd look for a motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Craig and Jim Schmidt. All those in favor? That's approved unanimously. Thanks for everybody for your time this morning, and have a safe rest of the day when this snowstorm actually does